Are the mics working?
Mics are fucking working.
Do you guys ever look at the camera? You just look at each other?
I don't care, whatever you want. You can stare at the camera the whole time if you want.
Yeah.
As long as the fucking mics are working, I don't care where you look.
Yeah.
This fucking guy with the mics, he doesn't listen. And when I tell him to put shit at a certain level, first of all, I didn't know what a 4-track was.
No, I know what an 8-track was.
8-track.
Yeah.
I thought an 8-track was an A-track.
Yeah.
8-track. The Chicago train.
All right, everybody, welcome to You Are Not Normal, the podcast where Gio sometimes gets the mics right, but they seem to be okay today, but we'll see. I'm here with a good friend of mine, Mr. GoMow. We grew up together in Rockford, Illinois, Screw City.
Armpit.
Armpit of America, really, not just Illinois.
It's like the right armpit. Las Vegas is the left armpit.
Yeah, old Vegas, for sure. Had a lot of adventures together, travel a lot, do some psychedelics, play some music, and you're up in Portland, right?
I am indeed in Portland, Oregon.
How is Portland these days? I'm sure that's a subject people are interested in because we kind of happened to me in San Diego where people are like, oh, how could you live in San Diego? All this shit's going on with, politically, and they see all this stuff on the news. There's all this conflict back and forth. But when I was like in San Diego, it's not like, you just kind of deal with some of the bullshit. It's not as bad as it seems on the news. Like I was just going to work and hanging out at the beach. It was nice. It wasn't as bad. It wasn't, the world wasn't ending like the news seems it is.
Sure.
Even though like politically it's all fucked up over there and there's this homeless problem and drug problems and there's all these problems, but when you're kind of in your bubble in these areas, it doesn't seem that big of a deal. Like what's Portland like?
Yeah, things always look worse on the news. However, you definitely get used to horrible things pretty quickly. So there's an adaptability of humans, I think that, yeah. But yeah, it's the drug use. These are things you never thought you would see. Open drug use, like someone with their pants down at their ankles defecating on the sidewalk is just like a weird thing to like drive past, or somebody like naked in public.
And like I think for me, it was kind of like when you reflect on it, like my place in Golden Hill in San Diego was like 1.5 miles to the harbor downtown. So I would jog down to the harbor and jog back. It was like a 3-mile jog. I'd do it like 3 times a week. But every single morning I would do that, I would see somebody defecating on the sidewalk. I would see 20 heroin needles. I'd see people smoking crack out of a tinfoil pipe. And then after a while, you're kind of like, is this am I just getting desensitized to all this? Yeah. And how is it even healthy being around this and being desensitized to humanity? And it's like you don't even look at homeless people as humans at some point, which is kind of sad.
Yeah. Seeing someone lifeless, motionless, passed out, hopefully passed out on the side of the road, like maybe one day in the past you would have like actually been concerned and called somebody to help this person that's like not responsive.
And now it's just
just
tell
like
a single person.
Yeah,
you see it every day.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's probably not good for when you live in that environment, right?
Yeah.
It makes you less empathetic and everything because what can you do about it? It doesn't seem like anybody else gives a shit. The powers that be don't care.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to do anyway. How are you going to help this person?
Yeah. So yeah, it's a shit show.
But dude, when I was first going up to Portland, probably 15 years ago or something, when I first moved out to San Diego, I'd come up and see you, dude. Portland was like my favorite city. Like I even wanted to move there.
It still is for me, because it's just a beautiful, beautiful place, the Northwest.
And like the bikeable, like
bikeability.
You can bike anywhere. Like the weather sucks for months when it's raining, but like I would always come out in the summer, and it was the shit.
Oh yeah, beautiful summer, no rain, and yeah, more in your field, the freaking home value prices. That's the problem for me.
Yeah.
Is that living in a place where I'll never be able to afford a home is like a weird, like, how do you form dreams? How do you get ambitious
Yep.
enough to like, I don't know,
Yeah,
discomfort yourself in a place that you love in order to get to that next level.
that's how San Diego was for me. And I
Bingo,
would
yeah.
make excuses too, because it's like we're both single, we don't have kids,
Low responsibility.
low responsibility. And it's like, does it make sense to buy $1 million house by myself? Like, even if you can afford it, which most people can't, it's like, why on earth would I do that when rent is very affordable? Like, what's in it for me,
Sure.
kind of thing. It just doesn't make sense. But I like to, like, Portland has like gone crazy, left extremists and all this weird shit.
It feels like it's an experiment
Yeah.
in America. You know, maybe Seattle was San Francisco and then Seattle and now Portland, just to see how far like you can push a society. It's weird. It's like anything goes, and it's not really populism. It's more like just like
Hedonism almost.
yeah, good call. Yeah, hedonism.
Yeah, but like we grew up, late '90s. We played music. We experimented with drugs and alcohol. We were like, I would say we were like the closest thing to like a hippie you could be in the late '90s.
Yeah.
And I still consider myself liberal. Like I was a liberal back then. Like our values and ideals back then was like anti-government, anti-corporation,
Question authority.
question authority, like absolutely, like didn't respect authority at all. Like whatever, if free, like if you wanted to, gay marriage, all that shit, pro-choice, like whatever, let everybody be who they want to be, who cares. And it seems like most of those values we had as 90s liberals are now things that quote unquote liberals are against. And now we find ourselves in our 40s and we're kind of like these conservative enemies when we didn't change our views.
Sure.
The world changed.
Right. Yeah.
around us.
You take a. Yeah. I'll first say that living in Portland's got me feeling like I am a conservative, which is really weird. But then you go online and take like a political sphere test where it kind of puts you in a grid of where you're at. And I just did this recently, and yeah, definitely liberal. Like,
Yeah, because conservative back when we were younger was super religious, wanted to censor everything. All those groups were going after like Howard Stern back then and fining them for, and we
Howard
were all
Stern's
just like,
an
we just want free
interesting- yeah.
speech, and now we were anti-war, all this stuff, and it's all just kind of switched, done a 180,
Yep.
which kind of goes to show that politics is all liquid anyway. It's just how are they going to adjust to get your vote, and what are they going to pass to get your vote? Like nobody has
Sure.
any integrity in the government. They're just trying to get a vote and retain power. Like nobody gives a fuck about anybody. I don't think Joe Biden really cares about the trans community. I don't think he woke up at 70 years old and was like, "Hey, I'm 100% for trans people now." Even though he wasn't his whole career, never said anything about it, but now he's for it. And I don't think Trump really gives a fuck about you if you work at Lube Pros. He just knows that
Neither side.
that's his voting pool, and that's who he's catering to, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about just setting up lifelong customers.
Yeah, they're lifelong customers.
Yeah. The thing about our bringing up adolescence that I wonder if like children, teenagers get this experience nowadays with social media is like, we always were like a part of teams. You had like your, I don't want to say gang, but whether it was a sports team in school or like a, gang outside of school, but there was always like a team mentality. And I feel like with isolation, I wonder like if team is something that people are joining more often in whatever regard, whether it's, sports or whatever, but I feel like that really helped me like just carry relationships through always just thinking that you're on a team, having that mentality.
That's it. We talked a little bit about this yesterday where, yeah, when kids are sitting around a table now, they're all just face in their phones. They're not even conversing with each other.
Yeah.
So their community is really just whatever TikTok is telling them or
Totally,
whatever the
yeah.
comments are, which is probably half Russian bots anyway.
Bingo.
But they're just being fed this. Their only friend is their phone, and
Yeah.
their only information and interaction and communication is on social media, which is manipulating them. Where when we were growing up, I think what was good about like kind of maybe our class in high school too is like everybody kind of hung out together. I don't know if you feel that way, but it wasn't
Totally.
like there wasn't like a jock group and a stoner group and you know like everybody just kind of hung out and got along. There wasn't like there wasn't any really bullying or anything.
I think, yeah, well, I think we got lucky to some degree, but yeah, the goths hung out with the jocks and
Yeah.
everybody just wanted to have a good time.
Yeah, it was great. But like growing up though, like I think because we grew up that way, we had all this influence from all these different people and nobody really, you know, judged anybody either certain way. It was way more of an open conversation to everybody else's views and either you agreed with them or you didn't. But I mean, that's a part of life. If everybody had your exact same views, then it just creates all this chaos we see today where everybody's like, no, you have to align like this. And now it's black and white and they can't seem to come together on one simple thing. Like everything is polarized. Whereas like if you do have a community with a bunch of different ideas, you can all get along and have a real conversation about it without hating each other. Like I think that's
Right,
what
right.
makes you open-minded and why we probably are still that way to this day. Because we weren't so black and white and tribal then.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing is just like one opinion that you don't disagree with doesn't make you a bad person.
Sure.
Like it's the greater things that you do agree upon, and yeah, there's that polarization just doesn't exist. And again, maybe we got lucky, but yeah, like otherwise, like where do you learn how to become who you are, other than like just relative to other people's called experiences and attitudes? It like forms you and is the basis of your own opinions. I think that's like huge, because yeah, up until I found the Beatles and marijuana, I was like an introvert nerd, wearing glasses and Kentucky Wildcat sweatshirts,
Yeah.
just like weird to look back upon. And then all of a sudden you just, you get exposed to great things, which is another, the exposure to things is a blessing in your life. Like, and that comes from the people you have around you, the team. But man, if there's one thing that my father gave to me, it's freaking classic rock and roll.
Yeah.
Just vinyls and being exposed to that. So, yeah, I got lucky there, but yeah, I mean, the people we were hanging out with, it seemed like we always listened to decent music, whatever that means. But I mean, I still listen to the stuff I was listening to then.
Yep.
It's crazy how like that has remained.
Yeah. It's, when we're talking about it makes you an individual and a kind of a character when you have your own thoughts. Which
Yes.
a character is remembered, right?
Sure.
Like everybody loves a character.
Yep.
Like my dad was a character.
Yes.
Right, and he's remembered. Great stories about him. We tell him all the time on this podcast. But with the young people growing up, it's like nobody's an individual. Like they all are just grasping onto any idea that their social media is telling them, so they don't have original thought. So there's no individuals anymore, there's no characters anymore, nobody stands out. It's just a sea of people that are, this way or that way, and there's not like any standout characters or individuals.
Sounds like you're making the case to have a family and raise raise your own,
Raise some kids.
raise some individuals.
Well, let's talk about the Beatles for a second too, because I think that was kind of the turning point for me too, because like I think we started listening to the Beatles around the same time, our early teens probably.
Yep.
And it was, I think, a good time to listen to them, that music in our lives as we're going through adolescence and becoming individuals, because that to me was like an era I remember and cherish where my mind was just like open to everything. And
Oh,
it was
yeah.
almost like godlike to me. I remember having that feeling. I remember specifically I was in my car listening to the Beatles, like driving over somebody's house, and I was like this is almost like a religion to me, or like a path for me, where it's like there's all this great art and all these great musicians and people that have done this and had these open minds and open concepts, and it's like that's how I'm probably going to live the rest of my life. And it was game changing for me.
Yeah, definitely. There's like an attitude. Everything's first and foremost. Everything's so positive with the Beatles. So there's not like go out and cut somebody up with a bone saw, you know.
Yeah.
So and then beyond that, you get the different attitudes of the dudes, and it's like you learn how to deal with situations based upon their lyrical content. Whether it's being in love and like doing the little things to be romantic, whether that's writing a song or even just like dance with me or whatever the call and response is. Super influential for me.
Yeah, there's certain songs that like relate to you at certain times, like Nowhere Man.
Yeah,
Remember
there you go.
At a certain time in my life, I would listen to that and just be like, God, I feel just like this, you know?
Help was a big one for me.
Yeah.
Just like that call for, whatever.
And the way they do talk about women and culture in a lot of the songs too. She came in through the bathroom window, like Norwegian Wood. Like there's just certain things, the ways they talk about these little stories in their songs or personas of these people that they're writing about, and it's like, damn, that's either like really hurtful or like it's like a what's the line in now she sits on the banks and wanders on the or now
On the
she,
banks of her own lagoon.
yeah, it's like it's just like so sad, but at the same time that person.
Tragic, but
Yeah, it's
relative,
like you know
yeah.
that woman, right?
Yeah.
And same with Norwegian Wood. It's like he has this experience, and
Which it could be easily canceled. You can't probably come out with that stuff today. You better run for your life if you can, little girl.
Yeah.
I'll catch you with another man. It's the end.
yeah,
Can't write that shit now.
yeah, they were pretty uncensored. They could kind of do what they want. They were paving their own path.
And however they did it, it was always sort of tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
It wasn't really ever serious. Again, there was, it wasn't like there was a call to go out and chop somebody up or whatever that
this
example
wasn't
is.
Glenn Danzig.
Right.
What do you think, like in combination with coming of age and listening to? We used to go to like CD Source back home.
Sure.
We used to skip school, go to Madison, Wisconsin, and
Madison was big, yeah.
play hacky sack, smoke weed, and go to head shops and
Question authority.
question authority for sure. And like a part of all this time in our lives, it was like when we first started smoking weed.
Yeah, definitely.
Like what kind of part does that play in all this? Do you think we would have had an open enough mind to all this if we weren't experimenting with drugs back then?
Personally, probably not. I mean, I would have continued probably on the same path I was. I'd probably be married with children and probably a part of a church somewhere in northern Illinois.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was like sort of, there was a fork in the road right there for me where it was either like Lutheran confirmation or rock and roll. And thankfully it hit me at the sweet spot where I could just roll with the rock. So yeah, that was like a huge moment for me looking back, because yeah, again, I would have been so much more straight-laced and yeah, not questioning like the magic of organized religion,
Right.
which is scary, but yeah, thankfully I escaped that.
Yeah, I think I had a different path. Like I was already questioning religion because I went to a Catholic school. My mom was a Jehovah's Witness. Like all of it seemed so fake to me.
Yeah, sure.
At a young age. So I remember at like 10 years old, I was like, well, all this is bullshit. And like, what's really going on out there? So I was already questioning it. And then years later, to discover great music and great art and, you know, discover marijuana at the same
Yeah,
time
yeah.
to like kind of open your mind to these things. It's
Dude,
like,
yeah, I think I was 17 when I finally smoked.
yeah, because
So
I
was,
remember, yeah, you were always kind of the dude like, well, me and Hans were like smoking weed and
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
stuff. You were always kind of like
Yeah, yeah.
standoffish. And then I remember we were probably at Ryan's one night and you were smoking weed with us, and it was like the changing point for like GoMow was finally cool.
like initiation.
Yeah. It's like, oh, now GoMo's cool. We can hang out.
Open the
The
floodgates.
narc is cool.
That's, yeah, I would have been the narc this
The
whole
narc.
time.
Yeah. And then, you know, Superfish Al was a big part of our lives back then.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun time.
You know, Ryan, your cousin, the noise chamber.
Yeah,
Like that
recording
was
studio, yeah.
like how, like I'm so grateful for that. Like when we were like 17, you guys started a band, Superfish Al, cousin Ryan, a little older than us.
Yeah, like 6 years older. I
And
think
then-
6 years.
Yeah, you were guitar, Hans was drums. I was just hanging around,
Yeah, yeah.
writing lyrics and hanging out in the studio and coming up with dumb shit. And
Yeah, just being around, man. Influence.
and then the noise chamber though was this like sanctuary for us. It was a recording studio in Rockford. Ryan worked there. We got to meet Joel and Ed there.
Yeah.
All these cool musicians. like,
Recording engineers, yeah.
recording engineers. We could, you know, we could just hang out there and party and just make music and come up with ideas and be creative.
Yep.
And there was, you know, musicians coming in and out. Rockford has a pretty badass music scene.
Yeah.
Like now that I've lived a bunch of different places, it's like, man, we had
Yes.
it pretty good. There was
Hell yeah.
a punk show every night. There was somebody playing every night. You know, Holland Zander was hanging around.
Oh, yeah.
She was very talented. But it was like, you know, at 17 to have all that, and maybe we didn't even know what we had. And then it kind of got taken away when,
Oh, yeah.
when Ryan passed away.
Yeah.
It was like, I mean, that was, and I talk about this sometimes. I don't go into the details, and we can if you want, but I always say, you know, at 17, like, you know, one of my best friends had died in my arms.
Yeah.
And that was like the turning point for me where it was like, you know, I was not like falling off the edge yet. I was like just partying, experimenting, having fun. And then once Ryan died, like that's when I just fell off a cliff. And that's when I started heavily drinking and then started doing cocaine, and then it just kept progressing and progressing. So from like, for me, from like 17 to 22, it just got like darker and darker and darker until I ended up in jail. And then, you know, at 25, I turned it around. But there was this real dark time in
Oh,
my
dude,
life
yeah.
after Ryan passed.
So dark. Yeah, same story. I literally lost like 2-3 years of my life where I just don't even remember whole years of like what I was doing in those years. Crazy black days. Yeah, it's crazy that it was like end of high school. So we had like 2, maybe 3 years of like just what you were discussing, the good times.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and yeah, it's like paths just diverged then, and
Yeah, everybody kind of split up.
yeah,
Like,
even
me and you.
yeah, it was like probably 5 years, 6 years before we were like super close again, which is weird, but I mean that's just like trauma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and maybe you can talk about this a little bit. Like, I always think about that time where, like, all this, I mean, huge trauma happens, right? Like, your cousin, you know, all of our best friend, like,
Yeah,
somebody
dude.
that was kind of the leader of this, you know, this group we had, and always the life of the party. I mean, he had his problems, but we were all young and fucking didn't really care. But it's like all of a sudden, you know, there's an accident. We witness him die in front of us, and, you know, we get taken to jail. We get put in an interrogation room.
Like we were at fault. Yeah, that was wild.
Yeah, so
because nobody had, you know, looking back, nobody had a clue what this scenario was.
Sure.
We obviously did because we were there, but like cops being cops.
Cops being cops. Yeah,
Put
we
you
were
in
all
cuffs.
separated in our own interrogation rooms for hours. And I'm sure like we all were just telling the same story. We just told them what happened. And then all of a sudden they come back in, tell us Ryan died. And then
World shattered, dude.
World
Didn't even think
shattered.
that was a possibility.
yeah.
Didn't even think that was like anywhere near a possibility at that moment. And
Yeah.
then, had you ever experienced like death prior to that, you think?
Yeah, I had experienced like my nana dying, and then just I think with my brother being so sick my
Yep.
whole life, I was like, he was on the edge all the time.
Yep.
So I mean, it still was a huge trauma for me, but it wasn't brand new.
Yeah.
But it was the first time like a friend, obviously.
That close, definitely. Yeah.
That close, where it's like somebody you hang out with every single day.
Yep.
I always talk about that, like when my dad passed away versus Tank, my dog, passing away. It's like, I don't say this to be insensitive, but like my dog dying was more of an impact on me
Sure.
because I was with him every single day. So it changed my life, right? Whereas like my dad, we would talk on the phone every couple weeks. I'd see him twice a year. Obviously more sad that my dad passed away. I'm not saying that, but it did affect me differently when Tank passed away versus my dad. And it's the same when Ryan died. It like our lives completely changed.
Completely.
Everything, like in an instant. And I always look back at that like I don't remember anybody like talking about it, like anybody of authority ever like asking how I was doing, asking if I was okay, asking if I needed help.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it was just like, oh, this all happened. Sorry it happened. Go find your way to heal. And there was nobody like took the bull by the horns and like kind of held us together or helped us or anything. I don't know if you had the same experience.
Oh, definitely.
Just completely on my own. I mean, my parents didn't talk about it. It was all just
Super
out of sight, out
taboo.
of
Yeah,
mind.
yeah.
My brother didn't talk about it. We barely talked about it. We all kind of stopped talking at that time. And it was like there was no support.
Yeah, yeah. I would agree. I can't say that people around me didn't try. I just totally rejected that. And because I rejected it, I don't think they forced the issue. But like, I guess for the sake of conversation, if you had a kid that went through that same thing, what would you do differently?
I mean, I would.
Like, okay,
I
just to
think-
put it in context, 17, 18 years old, their best friend just passed away tragically, blood, front yard of where they were hanging out. And then in the days after that, what do you do as a parent?
I don't think I ignore it. I think I definitely it would be the only thing on my mind to make sure my kid was all right. And I mean, I probably wouldn't dwell on the situation, more dwell on what can we do on a daily basis to heal from that, and maybe turn it into like what can we do positive every day instead of just ignoring it and letting my kid just do cocaine until he fucking ends up in jail, which was my path.
I mean, yeah, but okay, so then do you think your parents even had the tools for that?
No,
I would
no,
say
absolutely not.
similar, and it was just repeating behavioral problems because, my father had some weird tragedies happen to him as a child, and I'm sure he was acting as the father of his family, basically, so it's not like he ever learned the tools to deal with his own progeny once the occasion arose.
Yeah.
Sad but true. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I guess you can't really hold that against. Like I wouldn't assume that you hold it against your parents. It's just a
No,
matter
not at
of
all. No.
reality.
Yeah, it's how could they deal with it? They got their own shit they're dealing
Yeah.
with, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it was just out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
But I mean, that whole group just kind of broke up. I think you're the only person I even talked to from that era. And then,
Yeah, I would. Fortunately, I like Mickey, drummer Mickey, and even Ed, recording engineer Ed. I've been able to stay with those guys just because I think just that tragedy fused me to them. Whether it was, I wouldn't say it's their sympathy, but you know, being years younger than them, definitely like the chance for like older brother relationships, which I'm super fortunate to blessed with have.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck was kind of that
Yeah, there you go.
for us for a little bit, right?
Yep.
And so then, all right, we can get out of this
Yeah,
tragic
right.
story.
Please, Jesus, Jesus
But
Christ on the stick.
but let's, dude, you did something interesting lately. Went to a monk retreat.
Yeah. Silent retreat. Actually, Memorial Day, which is the day we were just talking about. Crazy to have like Memorial Day 6 p.m. every time around is kind of a weird time for me in the day. But no, I went. It was a sort of a Tibetan Buddhist silent retreat down in Marin County at a site down there, 4 nights. Super interesting. They requested that you don't make eye contact or talk to anyone, so you're just like in your own world.
How many people are there?
It's 100 people.
Wow.
Yeah, they give you 3 meals a day, room and board, and then there's a area where you all get together and listen to a speaker and just sit in silence. And that is, yeah, after 24 hours, you're sort of, I was able to get into it and then just sort of embrace the removal of those filters of social media and just having your phone and email and yada yada. So yeah, it was great. I would highly recommend it. I know that you've gotten into, I would say, Buddhism, spirituality, meditation type stuff in the past 5-6 years probably. Yeah, it's weird how we've kind of gravitated towards that, where we sort of had a slight religious upbringing and then sort of come full circle
To Buddhism.
to Buddhism. Nice.
Buddhism. Yeah.
You've always been subscribed to that.
Always, my whole life. I read the first Buddhist book I read was when the year I moved to California, and then it just seemed like, most of my life just never had a path of religion, because every religion that was thrown at me I thought was bullshit. And then after reading the first Buddhist book I ever read, I just kind of started gravitating towards that and the teachings there.
Yeah, the internalization rather than having external,
Yeah.
whatever, theism. Yeah, I definitely have a little more appreciation for that aspect.
So what, like at the retreat, like I can imagine this, and I asked you this when I talked to you afterwards, because I almost looked at it like a mini, I've done one of those sensory deprivation tanks
Yeah.
for an hour.
Nope.
And it was like the first 20 minutes was kind of like this anxiety inside me, where you're finally alone, all your sensory is taken away, you're alone with your thoughts, and the first 20 minutes you're kind of anxious about it.
Sure.
And then the next 20 minutes you find peace in it, and then the last 20 minutes it's just kind of this new normal that you accept. And I kind of saw the retreat in my mind was kind of like that.
Yeah, I think it sort of represents the shutting down of the I think it's the parasympathetic nervous system, where it's that fight or flight, and you're slowly just kind of getting out of that, and you kind of reach a true self, I think. Definitely had that, and that's that sort of first 24 hours of, geez, what did I sign up for? They're asking me to sit in silence for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Motionless.
It's hard to accept, and then
Yeah.
so your flight kicks in, or your fight or flight kicks in.
Because it almost feels like your freedom is being challenged.
Yeah.
Like you're having to conform to these parameters.
But really, it's the freedom is the ultimate goal.
The freedom, yeah, the ultimate goal. That's what you're achieving, which is something we're not really taught Western civilization,
Right.
which is available to everybody.
Yeah, and I struggle with that a little bit, because my day to day, I think I have to stay extremely busy, and I work a lot, and I work out a lot, and I got all this shit going on, and like I have to stay busy to kind of calm this anxiety inside of me. And then like the other side of it is like I know I can calm that at a retreat like that too. Like it's one extreme to the next. It's either complete silence and no cell phone.
Yep.
It would take me a day or two and I
Yep.
would find peace, or it's complete chaos gives me peace. Like it's like almost one or the other.
Yep.
Like there's this middle road where I get anxious.
Yep.
Where it's like it's kind of like a mushroom trip where you take mushrooms. If you take a little bit, then you can vibe out. If you take this little middle dose, now you're fighting the experience, and that's where the chaos and anxiety comes. If you take a big enough dose, you just fucking let go and
Yes.
you can enjoy it.
You can be amidst the chaos.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of the same thing for me when it comes to that, when it comes to.
Do you find that working out I know you've done exercise, working out has been a part of your regular routine for probably decades, I would assume. Is that sort of a meditation for you to some degree?
Oh yeah, yeah. But definitely working out is probably the time I can zone out the most.
Yeah.
Being active, I don't think about anything else. Same with off-roading, mountain biking, all the other shit I do. Running is probably the biggest one. Like I've said it on this podcast before, I think, but like when I'm on a 10-mile run, and when I hit like mile 6 or something, I just have this like release of emotion, and I'll start crying in the middle.
Is
of
this the runner's high that they describe?
It is euphoric. I don't know if it's a runner's high. It is the same feeling. I don't know. I can't speak for anybody else, but it is like this moment where you can't, like you can't help but like this relief valve for me like opens up, and I'll just like, I'm not even crying because I'm sad or
Sure.
anything. It's almost like a release of like gratitude.
Yeah.
And I start thinking like, man, all this shit that I don't really think about on a daily basis, but all the shit and all the trauma I've been through in my life, and then where I'm at today, like those are my thoughts when I hit this like extreme endurance part of, working out or something, where it's just like you're doing something so hard, your body can't fight these thoughts or feelings because you're giving it everything you got, and
Yep.
you don't have the energy or the power to maybe suppress these old trauma thoughts.
Sure.
And for me, it's not that I just think about them and dwell on them. I think about them, and then I think about where I'm at in life and how I got out of all that and where I could have been through all that if I stayed that path, and where I'm at today, and it gets me emotional every time.
Sure. And yeah, I think it's healthy to cry. I get that response from like sitting in front of a 60-inch gong and having somebody hit it and just like sound bath.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that experience where just tears.
Yeah.
And it's almost gratitude is a good expression for it. Russian author Tolstoy had this idea of like the aesthetic emotion, of like the emotion you get from experiencing, call it beauty or good art or whatever, not necessarily admiration or gratitude, but sort of those things all combined into one emotion and that's why we break down and cry, or tears of joy or whatever. It's just like flushing of the system.
Because it does feel good afterwards. Like it is some like type of relief.
Yes.
Yeah, you do need to cry every once in a while.
Yes.
Like I don't think me and you are super emotional people.
I don't think I've cried in your presence.
No.
Other than Memorial Day 2001,
yeah,
probably.
that one day. But yeah,
That was enough.
I believe, we have not cried in front of each other.
I don't even want to imagine you crying, honestly.
Could you imagine? And like most like relationships I've had and everything, like, it blows people's minds that I don't cry. I don't know if you get that same reaction in relationships.
I thought you were just a psychopath.
I'm just a sociopath. But it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but I just don't get overly emotional. When people are really emotional around me, I am a little uncomfortable because I don't know. I can't relate to that.
I think it behooves you to be along the stoic side of approach to life, for sure.
Yeah.
Because whether it keeps you from being vulnerable, sure, but it just allows you to mitigate life so much better if you just have this approach of it doesn't fucking matter.
It doesn't matter. Well, that's in that work. That's where I find peace. And some people think I'm crazy, but it's like, I'm sure you can relate to this. But it's, I don't like when I talk about stoicism or the way I act or how I'm not emotional or I'm pretty even keeled. It's I have this kind of running thought in my head of like, in 100 years, we're all going to be dead and nobody's going to remember us.
Sure.
So like that, I find
Insignificant.
peace in that, where some people would find that to be depressing.
But it took you, and I'll include myself, a long time to get to that point.
Yeah, and all the trauma. And
Yeah,
shit,
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
But I guess the road to paradise is paradise.
It is. So we're both. You're 40, right?
41 this year.
41 this year. I'm 41 in July.
Yep.
And it's like I look back at the people I grew up with and who I'm still in touch with, and 99% of my friends that I grew up with, went to high school with, like I'm still connected to people that are single with no kids. Right?
Birds of a feather.
Birds of a feather. Like we went out to Asheville last summer and ate mushrooms for 3 days and had like the greatest time of our life. We go get tattoos. We'll probably get a tattoo today or tomorrow. We're going to a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert. We hop on planes, go to Mexico. We go wherever. We do kind of whatever we want. And like I think of like the group we kind of hang out with that we grew up with is all kind of the same.
Yeah.
And I find that to be fucking great. And I cherish these relationships. And and I always think back of like we said this yesterday, like our dads when they were our age, had male pattern baldness and drinking problems and lived in the suburbs and we're trying to make ends meet. And we just kind of live free and do what we want. And I think that keeps our relationship and our relationship with our other friends we grew up with really strong. And it always, I always find it funny that, you fly out here, we kind of do whatever the hell we want. We get tattoos. We're 41 years old. We go to concerts. We eat mushrooms. We jam out, like just before this podcast, I'm playing the drums, you're playing guitar, we just bullshit around. We're doing the same shit we were doing at 20 years old.
It's fucking hedonism, don't get me wrong.
It's hedonism for sure, I'm not denying that. But like you're somebody who, I mean, we talk about this all the time and you want a family one
Sure,
day.
yeah.
And it's something that I don't want because I love having these types of weeks or weekends with people that are on the same trajectory of loneliness.
Well, I mean, yeah, birds of a feather. But I mean, yeah, okay. 40 years from now, though, what do you envision your life looking like?
I think it's similar to what it is today.
So the same people have stuck around that whole time?
Dude, we've known each other for 7 years. I mean, nothing's changed yet other than our philosophies and
I'm not going to wipe your ass for you.
No, but I'll have a nurse do that, or Kayla can do it.
So hired help.
Yeah, hired help for me. Yeah, I just don't. I mean, I'm not saying I'm never going to be in a committed. I'm not saying I'm never. Gio can do it. I'm not saying I'll never be in a committed relationship. I mean, hopefully that does happen where I find somebody I want to spend the rest of my life with. I'm not closed off to that at all.
Sure.
I actually do way better in a relationship. It's just my last relationship was so toxic and back and forth and up and down, which. God, I want to tell that Vegas story so bad.
No, dude, come on, no way. Jesus Christ.
But I think that span of the last long-term relationship I had just kind of has me, single for the last 5 years or whatever, not in a rush. But I do better in a relationship.
How many times would you say you've been in love?
Once.
One good one.
One good one. Yep.
It's more than most.
Yeah. I'm kind of a one, like, I think about, I hate to compare love to having my dog, Tank, but I feel the same way about him. I feel like he was like a one and done. Like he was just the perfect dog for me. We had a connection.
That's
Whatever
cool.
the universe, brought us together at the right time and the right companion. And like to even commit to getting another dog is something I'm 100% not interested in. I would like to maybe foster one, but not have like a committed relationship with one.
You could get fish.
And I could get a goldfish. But like, I just kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe I get stuck on this one thing. And I think it's the same way, when I was in love with that person, it's like, maybe that was just the one and done for me. And maybe I shut it off to open to any,
Just start listening to the Beatles again.
any more love. I need to start listening to the Beatles again. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I think the kids thing though, it's like, I don't know. I don't,
Just never.
I just don't, I never ever wake up and think I wish I had kids.
And no one's contacted you yet saying that you do indeed
I
have a
haven't
child.
I haven't done the 21andMe or whatever the fuck it is. And the only reason I'm not doing that is because I don't want them to come out of the woodwork. I'll wait another 10 years because then I know like they'll be of age and I won't have to have the responsibility.
Totally.
So yeah, at 50 years old, I'll probably do a DNA test and see if I got any little TONYMONTs out there.
I used to convince people that I had 2 GoMows in France.
Yeah. Let's talk about the name GoMow.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
Dude, that's like the number one thing people ask. And it's like, I mean, you introduce yourself as GoMow.
There's a crowd.
Oh,
that,
there is?
Yeah, certain. If it's like a rock and roll side of life, then I get to be GoMow. But otherwise, it's Barrett J. Butterfield, which I've been complimented on my name. I had nothing to do with it, obviously, but
Son of Scott and Rita.
yeah, son of Scott and Rita Burwood. Shout out. No, okay, so GoMo's always been my nickname for as long as we've probably been hanging out, honestly, because it goes back to music days. And I rarely get to explain it anymore, but I got to last night with your mates that we hung out with, and it's always like, oh, that's like so freaking cool. It's something I've just grown so used to. So, first band, Superficial, we were sitting around my mother's kitchen table, Burwood Avenue, and we're coming up with stage names because nobody wanted to like be their own name in the band.
Right.
So drummer Hans was like Hansarelli.
Hanzarelli.
I don't remember what Ryan's was. Ryan Noise maybe or something.
Yeah.
Pilo.
Pilo was the nickname we gave him.
So then I needed a nickname or a stage name, and it just so happens that I was like mowing lawns to raise money at the time, because what else do you do when you're freaking 16, 17 in Northern Illinois? And my mother was trying to get me to go mow the lawn. So at some point she was frustrated enough because, Ryan's drinking beer around the kitchen table at 10 a.m. in the morning on a Saturday. And
Right.
so she finally yells at me to Bear, go mow. And then it was like, oh, that's it.
That's it.
Go mow.
GoMow.
So
It
yeah,
just
that's
stuck.
the genesis, yeah.
Yeah, everybody loves that story. I've told it 100 times.
It never
You're
gets
like,
old.
GoMow. I'm like, yeah, and then I just tell the story.
And
I was
it-
like, that's so great.
Just makes sense.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been blessed.
Yeah, love it.
Yep.
Love the nickname.
Yeah,
So we got Red Hot Chili Peppers tonight.
indeed.
Never seen them in concert.
Never seen
before.
them. What's your favorite material from them?
Soul to Squeeze, I would say, is probably my favorite.
Which was on a soundtrack. Was that Last Action Hero, maybe?
I don't know.
It was, yeah, it only appeared on a soundtrack, I think.
Yeah.
I always got it. One Hot Minute.
Yep.
The Dave Navarro stuff was good.
Dave Navarro stuff was good. Yep.
And the Blood Sex Sugar Magic, I think is what that
Good
one was.
album. Yep. Probably not a premier band I was super into where I got obsessed with it like
Yeah.
I did, Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. And,
Yeah, definitely more into the Seattle stuff.
but awesome band. Anthony Kiedis is dating a 20-year-old model right now. He's 61,
That's,
which is wild.
yeah, it's like Yeah, it's not even really dating his daughter age.
No,
It's like
it's like his granddaughter.
dating his granddaughter.
Yeah. I mean, he's in great shape, but
Something.
we were saying, like, how can you have a relationship with somebody 20 years old? Like, and not feel like they're dead?
Yeah. What are you getting from that relationship?
Like, even my goddaughter, Brandon's daughter, Callie, it's like she's 22 or something. And it's like, when I have conversations with Callie, I'm naturally like, at her age, I'm naturally like a father figure. Like, and same with like Eric and Shiloh's daughter. It's like when I'm talking to her, she's in her early 20s. It's like, how can you not naturally be a father figure to a woman that's that much younger than you? And I'm only double their age. He's triple her age.
Yeah,
So it's like, how can you even have that type of relationship or feeling towards somebody that's that much younger? It doesn't even compute.
Yeah, the only thing I can come up with, and we discussed this last night, and I kind of went away and thought about it, is like, if you are into influencing people and sort of like a molding of a mind, because there's a good chance that this 20-year-old has never heard the Beatles or whatever music Anthony Kiedis is into. So you're like exposing them to your favorite things and sort of reliving and getting passionate about them again through the other person's, interests. I could see something like that being worthwhile, like showing them the world. You take them to some, exclusive beach and wherever, and you get to. It's almost like vicarious living through appreciation through someone else's eyes, which could
But
be cool.
I feel that same way. I think that's why it feels like a father figure to people that young, though. Because like you're telling stories and telling them about experiences you had, or telling them about music or art that you're into, or just life experiences and business or whatever it is. But it's like, yeah, you're almost teaching somebody something, and it does give you this good feeling, but it doesn't turn into a romantic feeling. It's just, I don't know. I mean, to each their own. It's just,
Each their own.
it's the guy's fucking 41 years her senior.
I mean, I guess it's nice to have that option.
Yeah, it is. It is. But for me, it's like, I think we talked about this yesterday. It's like, I think 27, 28 is a pretty sweet spot. I don't
Threshold.
date women in their mid 30s. I think that's a danger zone.
Danger zone, the highway.
Yeah, it's a highway through the danger zone, through the mid 30s. Not to offend anybody out there, but women in their mid 30s are on a time schedule, and
The clock is ticking.
the clock is ticking.
So then
There's some urgency.
you
there.
feel like after, I think you mentioned maybe 40, they come off of that deadline
Yeah, I think
mentality.
women in their 40s have given up on life, and it's an easier relationship to have. Sure, there's a little bit of misery and acceptance at that age that you can grasp onto and relate to and
Commiserate
ride out.
with.
Yeah. Whereas like the late 20s, they're not in a rush, and then you can manipulate them to make them not want to have kids.
For a few years until
For a
they,
few years.
and then you got DiCaprio 'em.
Yeah, then you just gotta let them go. Once they hit 34, it's lights out. See you in 7 years.
See,
Yeah. Look me up in 7 years.
look me up in 7 years.
And you've given up. Yeah. So, what's next for GoMow?
Man, I want
What do
to.
you do for a living? We didn't even talk.
I do websites, front end development, spending time in front of a computer screen. Outside of that, make music and make art.
Hell yeah.
I just want to make mediocre art and be left alone.
Hell yeah.
That's my goal in life.
I appreciate that about you.
No, but yeah, as far as like just the meditation thing, I was mentioning that whole retreat. That's the first time I've done anything like that, and I think it was really something for me that to pursue. Just spend less time on your phone and internalize time and energy. Felt really good coming out of that, and interested in doing more of it.
Yeah, that's why I cherish this relationship, because like with me and you, we can like have long, talk for days on end about everything under the sun, have different views, just have real discussions about stuff that not everybody is open and willing to talk about or ever thinks about.
Yeah,
And
without judgment, I think is
without,
it.
oh, 100% without
Yeah,
judgment. And we can, I mean, unless it's like urgent work stuff, like not being on our phones at all. Like there's days go by when we hang out where it's like we don't even look at our phones.
It's a great point.
Even when we're trying to, remember a stat or something, it's just like we just talk about it and figure it out. If we can't, it's not even something we
No
go
fact
look up.
check needed.
It's just fuck it. We'll just have our own truth about it. But yeah, I do appreciate that. I appreciate the not taking life too serious either. It's like you say mediocre art. It's like, we jam out, we'll make goofy songs. We've recorded some at your house. We'll we get tattooed, we don't overthink it, and it's like nice to have a friendship with somebody where it's like life isn't taken too serious. We can have fun, we can make art, we can talk business, we can talk life, we can talk relationships. It's all very open. There's no secrets here, and there's no judgment either. It's like nobody gets out alive.
Yeah, man.
Why take it?
I think you're probably one of the dudes I've just, as far as decibel level, have laughed the hardest and most heartfelt with, and that's a blessing to find. Because, geez, if you can get together and do that at least once a year, talk about therapy.
Yeah, it's a good reason.
Yeah, man, laughing.
Oh yeah, need it.
Need it.
All right. Well, thanks for joining the pod,
Yeah,
GoMow.
this is fun. Hell yeah.
I'm looking forward to the concert tonight, and we got to come up with a good tattoo for tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
Cheers.
All right, everybody. For TONYMONT, this is GoMow Butterfield saying we'll see you at the top and catch you on the next one. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching my video. If you'd like to watch more videos, my playlist is right here. And if you'd like to subscribe, click down here. I'll see you guys at the top.